Hey guys, good afternoon and welcome back to the show. Today we are going to be adding Chart.js to our React application with a little library called react-chartjs 2. So Chart.js is a charts library that I've been looking at for a little while now, and it seems to be pretty cool. It's got some really nice visualizations, and I'm pretty familiar with HighCharts, but I've never used Charts.js before, and I think Charts.js might be the new charting library for me if it's easy to implement and the charts really are as good looking as they look in the documentation. So to add this to our React app, we are going to use a library created by Jerry Arrest called react-chartjs 2. It's very simple to add. It's a quick npm install command that you'll see on his GitHub page, which I've linked below in the description. So we'll just go ahead and copy this here and open up our upterm. We'll install that, and while we'll install that, I'm going to go over real quick as a reminder, or for those of you who have never seen this before, what we're building right now. We've got a simple budget app basically, and you're allowed to basically create expenses and tag things as savings now, and it's a simple budget. I mean, it takes your total income, subtracts your total expenses, and gives you what's left over. Now, there's a difference between an expense of tacos and expense of savings, and the difference is that tacos goes to someone else. When you give them the $10, you don't ever get that back. But if you're putting $100 in savings, you still want that to show up in your expenses and your budget, but it's different. So now you can tag it as a savings expense here with this button. And now what I want to do is kind of render that all over here in our as a graph. So we're going to show you how to do this in just a second. But what we're going to do is I added an endpoint that will let us grab the expenses, so we can see our savings expense right here. And if we add another one, let's add retirement, for instance, for $200. We'll create that, tag it as a savings. And then we'll head over to our savings tab, and there it is. So these are our savings expenses. And now I want to add a nice visualization like we just saw, a bar graph that shows like the amount of savings we're going to have after each of the next 6 months. So I think probably by now our libraries have finished installing from npm. So let's go ahead and look at the documentation. It looks like there's some examples in here. Yeah, looks like we've got examples. So we'll take a look in the example directory. Source, let's see, components. I want to see how we set up a line graph. So it's pretty simple, I guess. Configuration object right here. And then we just create a component that uses this line component that we've imported here. So I think this should be pretty simple to implement. Let's give it a shot. Okay, so I think what we'll do is probably we're going to create a stateless React component called bar graph, and that's going to take props, and it's going to return this bar that we've imported here from react.js chart.js 2. So go ahead and import this, and then we will call, or we'll add that component to our bar graph component. Now we're going to be passing our expenses through to the bar graph. So well, I guess what we should do probably first is just take the example and use it verbatim and see that we can get this rendering. So this is called, this prop that we need to pass is called data. Pass that in there, and let's see if we get a bar graph. Well, I guess we're going to have to include this down here. Let's see if our bar graph will render now. Okay, cool, it did. So we got the example set up. So that's how easy it is to add Chart.js to your React app. If that's all you wanted to see the video for, you can stop watching now. If you want to see me go through and implement our API endpoint to project future savings, then please, you're welcome to join. So next thing we're going to do, so we're going to need to pass our expenses through the bar graph as a prop. So we'll call the prop the same thing that we called in the parent component, and that's saving expenses, because they're expenses that are tagged savings. And now what we need to do, we're going to need to figure out a few things, right? We're going to need to figure out the total monthly savings. And that's going to be some kind of integer, I think, or maybe a decimal. We're going to need to figure out const total savings, savings at each month. Total savings at each month. And that's going to be an array, since we want to know the savings at well, I guess the next months aren't quite January through July. Right now it's September. So our next months are going to be October, November, December, January, and February, and March 6th. Yeah. Then I'm going to create an array called next month's numbered. That's going to contain a one index. It's going to be a one indexed array basically, because we're going to multiply our total monthly savings by that value for each of these to get the amount of savings that we'll have at the end of the month. And then we'll also maybe have a constant here called initial savings amount, which I'm going to set to 0 for now because we don't have a way to get this in our app. Eventually we're going to probably want to add this, like what are your total savings now. Okay, total savings at each month. So we need to figure out how to do our combined monthly savings. So the API endpoint that passes our expenses down returns a JSON object like this. So you'll see it's an object that's got a property called expenses, which is an array of our expenses, and they all have these tags, the tag of savings. So we want to do a reduce here, and we want to reduce it to the sum of the amounts. So what we can do is take our props.savings expenses, reduce that. So that's an accumulator and an expense, and that would be accumulator plus expense dot amount, and then starting 0. So we're just going to add the amounts of our expenses. So we should expect this to be 600. And then our total savings at the end of each month, at the end of, or at the first month, next month, I should say, it's going to be 600, right? And then the next month it'll be 1200 because we're adding 600 each month. So we can. That's why we created this array here, next month's numbered, because we're going to take that and map it, next month number, into next month number times total monthly savings. And now this should be an array containing our savings at each of the months, October, November, December, January, February, and March. So our labels, we're going to use next month's here. And our data, instead of using the sample data, we're going to use savings at each month, right there. Finally, I think we need to fix the label. Projected savings maybe. And let's take a look. Let's see what this looks like now. Okay, it looks like it might have worked. Projected savings 300 at the end of first month, 600 at the end of the second month. Let's see. Wait. what's our, oh yeah, 100 plus 200, so that's right, 300. So if we went and added to our budget a new expense, or a new savings, like say I invested in stocks $300 a month, we should expect to see that value increase in our savings chart. Well, we've got to go and tag that as savings first, and then if we go here, projected savings 600, 1200, 1800, and we see our stocks show up here. So it looks like, okay, projected savings, yeah, that looks good. Yeah, so we've added Chart.js to our app, and so that's a whole new feature that we just added, so that's pretty cool. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope this video was useful for you. Always love feedback and comments. Sorry about the audio problems we had in the previous video. I hope those are fixed. Also, should be able to take a look at the live chat now. I've since messing up that time, I've added an external monitor to my setup here, and that way I can kind of monitor what you guys are saying live. So thanks again for watching, guys, and have a great day.